Okay, I've been all right. Okay, so thank God.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. All right. So good evening, everyone, once again. Um, I'm sorry for the last class that we missed. Not like 6 weeks is 3 weeks is enough for all the things that we need to learn in playwright, but yeah, you just have to do some of the key things that you need to know. Yeah. So today I'm going to be talking more on configuring your tests right? Not just your test. Like if you're building a test automation, a robust um test automation framework, some of the things that you need to do or need to configure in your when you're building a robust test automation framework, yeah, using Playwright. So um so one of the things is actually making sure that a you're structuring your file in a using any of the um models, uh which in the case I think the last class we had, we talked about page object models. And so we use page object model basically. So what you can do is try to use page object model to make your test uh, um, optimize your tests, make create reusable functions, reusable, um, make it less to avoid dead codes and so many other things. Yeah. And then that then how many playwrights, ANST playwright do I have? Okay, so that's one. The next thing is like making use of test data and all of that. I think we also did something like that last week. Last week actually. So today I'm going to focus more um on the configuration for a robust test framework. Then tomorrow we look into integrating your tests to CI/CD. So the first thing I'm going to be talking about today is, so I'm going to be talking about things like how to handle flaky tests, um your and some other like advanced configurations that you need, how to handle SSL certificate issues, getting screenshot videos and traces for your tests, serial and parallel mode of test execution. Then we would also and then reporting, basically reporting, and then how to structure your script, your package or JSON file. So let's start with the flaky test. So the first thing is, so for instance, I mean, as you're building your test automation, as it continues to grow, and depending on the applications as well, you'll find out that you can encounter things like flaky tests. And actually, some of them, you might not really be able to ever like make it not to be flaky, but there are things like that you can try. You can try to like use some playwrights and features to um reduce the uh yeah, you can only try as much as possible to reduce the amount of flakiness, right? You notice that I've noticed it in my project, the company where I work. that you have to, even some tests that you already have on the pipeline, sometimes you run the pipeline and it fails, and then when you rerun it again, it passes. You didn't fix anything, you didn't do anything. You just rerun the test again and then it passed, right? One way to handle some of those flaky tests is maybe you rerun it, it will pass. So, but is it every time that you will have to be there to rerun the test, right? Let's mute ourselves.
Let's charge.
And Bimbola, please, can you mute everybody? Somebody is on mute. Victor, not muted. Abimbola, okay, cool. All right, so yeah, so okay, I disabled this test. Disabled this. So yeah, so as I was saying, so you notice that the test might be flaky, right? And yeah, so and then when you retry that test, when you rerun the test again, if it passes, basically. So you can only try to like reduce the amount of failures, right? But then in some cases, you might not really have much. In some cases, yeah, you might not really be able to do anything much. So what you can do is try to maybe use the Playwright retry feature to help you retry the test a number of times, right? Automatically, basically. So when it fails the first time, it automatically retries the test. So that's the first thing. And that's one of the things that you can do. And then how do you go about it? Yeah, how do you do that? Hold on, let me, because I'm going to be needing this test. So, um, yeah, so let's come to our config file. Oh, okay. So we even have it here. So the first, so we have the retry feature here of Playwright. So this particular you can actually set this your test to say retry this test. It's just a number of times. It can be 2 times, it can be 1 time, it can be any number of time, right? That you want it to rerun so that it doesn't so that when your test fails the first time, it then reruns it again and then reruns it again before it can now say if it's not a flaky test, actually it will fail, right? So it will only like pass maybe when you rerun it multiple times if it's a flaky test, right? So that's one way of doing it, and then using some weights and like the Playwright, the weighting functionalities in the Playwright API, which we already treated in the previous classes. So that's another way to do that, and then retrying to handle your flaky test, right? So the next thing I would like to also mention is I think I'm not doing this now because I mean, it's already here. I don't know if we have seen that in play before. So let me see if we would be able to have a test that will be flaky. Oh, products. Okay, let me take this out to what is here. So let me run this test to see if we have like a flaky test anyway in here. It's right. Test. for tests. How many tests we have here? This is 1, 2, 3. And then we have one. Okay, so okay, so we have like how many tests run? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just like 8. Okay, so okay, in one file we have like 8 tests running. Then so you see here that there's no flaky test actually. That's why you can see this 0, right? So 4 failed, 4 passed. Okay. Um anyway, let's proceed. I'll try to see if I can create a scenario that will give us a flaky test. And I can use it to show what I'm trying to do. But for now, let me just hold on, let me see which file had its past test. Source demo login failed. This. Okay, so okay, so I'll have to carefully look at this test to know what's going on there. All right, so that's for retry. So you can just go to your Playwright config file and change your retry to the number of times, yeah. But most times it's advisable to like maybe 2 or 3, depending on the way depending on how your spirit leads, basically. So you can put any number of times you retry, but you don't want to keep retrying a particular test for a very long time. It's not ideal. So that's one. Then the next thing that we're going to be talking about is okay, I think I already spoke about headless mode, running your test on headless and headed mode. I already, oh, okay. Yeah, I said something, I already said that, but it wasn't in the config file, yeah, right? Please confirm. I didn't add it to the config file. I was adding it as a flag, right?
Yes,
For
yes. They're putting it out in the panel.
yes, so if you can actually add that to your configuration, file. And so for instance, you want to run your test in headless mode or headed mode. So what you can do is where you have your projects, right? Which is the different browsers that you want to run your test with, right? What you need to do is come inside of the particular browser that you want. So for instance, let's use the Chromium browser. So we can come in here, not there, sorry, Control Z, Command Z. So inside of where you have this use, yeah, we can. So remember, inside of this your use, yeah, you can actually do any setup that you want for that particular browser, right? So in here, we can add you add headless, yeah, and then set it to true. So if you set it to true, it runs the um headless mode for you. So if you set this to true and then you do play npx playwright run, yeah, headless true, it will run on the headless mode basically. I don't know where it's getting all these 6 and 5 tests that are run, 8 tests that is running. Okay, sorry, I didn't comment this out. Okay, let me do this. Let me add this here, but only so that next time it doesn't run everything. So yeah, so it runs on headless mode. Yeah. So no, sorry, excuse me. So so yeah, it's running headless mode already. So mind you, if you don't set, if whether you set it here or not, it will run headless by default. Do you understand? But you now want to run the headed mode, right? And another thing is when you set this headless to true here and add the flag, I think it won't really run that. Let me see, dash headed. Let's just check. I think it will still run. Okay, it's running headless, headed. Okay. Um, okay. We actually run headed mode. So, but basically, you can actually set it up here in your config file and it will run headed or headless, depending on the way what you set it to. If you set headless to false, it will run false. Okay, let me save this. But then if you set it to true, it will run whichever way you set it, basically, right? So you can actually use this your config file to do that setup. Then the next thing is your screenshots, right? You can decide to, so when you're building a test framework that is robust or that has a lot, like that is large, basically, you might want to like get screenshots for your test reports to see what is happening and things like screenshots, traces, um, 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 videos, right? You want to see what's going on, what happened at what point, and all of that. And in some cases, so let's see, let me open Playwright documentation. Um, okay. So let's see, Playwright screenshots. So let's do configuration first. this first. Okay, so this is record video. Let me open. Screenshots. Mm, screenshots. Yeah. So this one is right showing the code. That's not what I'm looking for. Anyways, okay, let's start with the videos basically. So if you see in first of all in your config file, you can actually you want to get videos of how your test runs. Yeah. You can come in inside of the use for the like inside of this browser. No, where am I? No, inside of the browser. What's it called now? Not outside. Oh, the mouse that I'm using is actually confusing me. Okay. No, not here. Okay, let me take this. Yeah. So you can have this, you can have like screenshots and then get it on failure, right? The reason why you're getting on failure, there are other options like on and off. But if you set it to on, it will get screenshots for everything, every of your tests. And imagine you're building a robust this thing. It's going to just be getting all the screenshots and overload your test basically. So you want to maybe get on failure, maybe when any time your test fails, get the screenshot. So let me just use this video on to explain for the videos, traces and screenshots because they basically have um the same options that you can actually go for, right? So the off one will not record video at all or screenshot. You won't get the screenshot at all if you set it to off. If you set it to on, it takes for all the tests that runs, like for each test that runs. But this one, setting it retain on retry on failure, sorry, would record for each test, but it will remove all the videos from the other tests that passed. So it will only retain the one that failed. The tests that failed, it will retain their own video or screenshots or right. And then there's also on first retry. So you can record a video only when retrying a test for the first time. So just like we set a retry here in our config file. So if it's retrying for the first time, that's the only time it will take to get a trace or video or whatever, right? So this is only on failure. When you fail, please get me a screenshot. And then you can add something like you can add the trace here to get the trace for you on maybe or maybe on retain on failure, basically. Yeah. Get it when it fails, and then you can say, get me a video or record the video when it fails as well, right? So, so these are some things, options you can actually add to help it easier for you to actually be able to debug your test, especially when you have so much test, right? So if I run this test now, since we have these things on, remember that when you're making your changes, if your VS Code is not automatically on save, on auto save, make sure to save them, because if you're not saving them, it's not going to it's not going to retain sorry, this test would actually pass. So I might have to remove this so that the other test that is failing will run. Remove this, then maybe comment this out so that we have some failures. I don't need this headed again. Okay. So, um, so let's see what we have in our playwright report. So now we have a trace folder here. Yeah. Then uh we have trace, hold on. We have there's a lot of information here. So no, file is not displayed in the text editor because it's either binary or use an unspecified text encoding. Okay. So this is a screenshot basically that was taken for the test that failed. This is video. So let me see. You know what? Let me see if I can copy this path and open it somewhere. Okay, don't worry. Let's look at it from the HTML report. No, failed tests. Um, okay, so yeah. So here you can see that the test that failed is showing in the HTML report basically. It's showing us the test steps that fail, and then it's showing the screenshots. So why it is failing, it's getting an empty screen like this. Obviously, when it gets an empty screen like this, then it should fail because there's nothing here that it can actually perform an action on. So it's showing you the screenshot of what it is seeing that made it fail, right? Then that's the screenshot. And then this is the trace down here. The trace is, you can actually download the trace and open it, right? Open the trace. The trace is usually a zip file, right? That can show you what happened at what time and what time. You can check the after, the before, right? See like a step by step on what happened, right? Can walk through or time travel over it basically before after action, right? You can see them here. So then the next thing is, oh jeez, I've closed it. So let's get it again. So I'm going to get the HTML report. You can copy the part actually and then open it on your browser. Open it on your browser. Then let's continue. So this is a screenshot, this is the trace, and then this is the video, right? So you can play the video and see what actually happened, yeah, when your test failed. So, so this is one way for you to actually see your videos, reports. It's actually not opening on VS Code because of the file format. That's why you are not able to see the video on but the screenshots is visible. The screenshot is visible. Um, This is the zip file. This is the screenshot, which is a PNG file. And then this is a video. We can't really play it on. So you can actually open it on HTML. You can just copy your HTML report, the path to it, and open it on your browser. And then take a look at everything that happened. So from now, you can see that, okay, we now have video reports, our trace, and then the screenshot. And then for the trace, you can basically download it. I've downloaded it. By clicking on this trace, it downloads automatically. And then you can go to trace.playwright, yeah, .playwright.dev to view your trace, right? Yeah, so what you do is upload the file, the zip file, open it, and then it opens up the same thing for you. Yeah, so you can, from there, you can basically view if it was a test that actually took steps, you will see all these things are the steps that we're taking, right, for this test. So that's it for adding your trace to your configuration file for a more robust test. So at least by the time you look at the video, look at the screenshots, look at your traces, you should be able to get a glimpse or a hint on what actually made your test fail, or why your test was failing, or why your test was behaving the way it was behaving. Yeah. So so that's it for tracing. Then so Playwright also enables you to be able to run tests on different like responsiveness, basically, right? We know that when you're testing, you test, if you're testing, for instance, you're testing a web app, and the app should also be able, you should be able to view this app on your mobile phone, like not really a mobile app, but it's a web application, right? So you can actually test, do that on Playwright. So for instance, let's go to, let me inspect. You know that when you're testing, you can basically come here on your browser, aside from doing real test with real devices, like maybe using Lambda test or browser stack to do your test on real devices. You can actually come to here and then go to this particular thing here, the dev tool, whatever. And then you can do responsive testing here on different devices, maybe these devices, change to iPhone XR, Samsung, whatever, right? You can do this on your browser. You know that. So with Playwright, you can actually do this by setting the viewport. You know that when I switch to iPhone SE, the viewport is like 375 to 667, right? By 667. And then when I change to iPhone 12 Pro Max, the viewport is from 390 to like 844. So you can basically do this kind of setup on your Playwright test, right? And it will enable you, and then it will basically run your test on a device, on a screen size that looks like this, right? So let's try it out. And how do you do that, or where will you be able to do that? It's basically still in your config file. So let me just do test.only. So in your config file, right in here, you can add another use case to say, what's it called now? Viewport. Yeah, viewport. And then it's an object because it takes in two parameters, or not two properties basically, which is the width. Yeah, and then you can set the width to whatever you want it. So in our case, we maybe want this, so this is 390. So I'll say 390, and then height will be 844. So 844. Yeah, and then we put our comma. Okay, why is it not? What's the problem? Viewport 390, comma. Yeah, so what's the problem? Well, this say viewport is specified more than once, so this usage will be overwritten. Okay. There's a viewport somewhere. Hold on. Where is it specified? Yeah. Viewports. Okay. No, cancel. Close. Please, is my eye is paining me. Are you seeing any viewport anywhere in this file?
There's viewport after the video.
Where? After the video.
Yes.
This
You
is it now.
inserted it now. Yes, that is it.
Is there any
Viewport.
other one? That's what I'm saying. Is there any other one anywhere?
No, 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 no. There's
So
none.
where's the crime? Viewport size but height number. Viewport is specified more than once. So this usage will be overwritten. Specified more than once in line 25. Hold on.
Let's see line 9. You can't see it. Line 9. Up,
Line
up.
9.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we
Now,
only have reporter there,
reporter, not
not viewport.
reporter, and that's why we are getting our HTML report.
Mm.
I think this is what is causing it. Okay.
Please, what do you do to it that the error change? Please.
I think
I
it was
just
because of the comma. Because he didn't put the comma.
commented this out. But the comma was there since.
Oh,
I
okay.
just commented this out, actually.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I just commented this out. But this shouldn't be a problem. Okay, let's continue. So this is viewport. Then, so if we try to run this test now, so I'm going to run it in headed mode so that we can see that in play. So let's see. You can see. You can see that it's running this test on a smaller, like on a smaller viewport now. Do you understand? Some of the tests, yeah, are using the other worker. So the other project basically. So the ones that are running on Firefox are not using these viewports. And that's why you see some are bigger screen, like the ones behind were bigger screen. But the ones running on Chromium. So for instance, if I let me comment this out so that you can see it properly. So if I comment this out and say, if I comment this out and run the test again, you'll see that everything would run in one screen. Yeah, it's on this screen. So you see that the screen is no longer as big as it was. It's trying to run it on this viewport that we have set here. So this is how you can basically try to do like some responsive design and some responsiveness test on your using Playwright basically. So you can even change the viewport to something else, maybe smaller screen or something. Then you can also run tests on devices like mobile devices, right? And that's where, so let me say, for instance, I want to run on iPhone, maybe iPhone 12 or iPhone 10 or iPhone 11, right? And we know that iPhone devices uses Safari, right? That's their default browser. So I'm going to leave Chrome and I'm going to insert a device, a new browser. So I'm going to put in a new browser. I'm going to put in a new browser and then I can give it a name. The name of this browser is Safari. And then use, then use. So the browser, you can also like maybe add browser name here. The name of this browser is WebKit. So Safari is actually under the WebKit family. So you can say headless mode, set it true. we can decide to get screenshots to be on. Yeah. On. And then you can now add the devices. So the devices is added with dot, dot, dot devices. And then you open up an array. Yeah. So inside of it, you can now put whatever device. You can see that a lot of devices are popping up. See see Galaxy, BlackBerry, Nexus, see all the Pixel, iPad, iPhone, mini, iPad mini. All you see all the plenty devices that you can think of, right? So let's say, for instance, we want to run on iPhone, maybe iPhone 11. Let's say iPhone 11. Yeah, or maybe iPhone anyone. iPhone 11. Is there anything like iPhone 10? Okay. So iPhone 11, let's see. So now you know that we have I have this Safari here, and then I have Chrome here. If I run this, it's going to be running two workers, so it's going to be running this and this. So what if I want to run just Safari and I don't want to comment it out like this? How do I do that? Okay. So what you can do is just the way you added this flag dash headed, you can add you can say dash dash projects, yeah, projects equal to Safari, yeah, and then it will just run with Safari browser. So let's run this test and see. Okay. It failed. So context of browser was closed. Um, okay. Context symbol not found. Let's see. Okay. I didn't even. So two failed, symbol not found. What is this symbol? Context of browser has been closed. It means that it didn't even, yeah, basically it didn't even open any browser at all. Okay, so maybe the name, is it that the name is wrong now? Do I need to? Hold on, let me check Playwright browser. Let's see. The browser name. It's a Safari browser. Then, okay, browsers. Okay, so test against desktop browsers, test against mobile viewports. Name mobile Safari. Okay. Okay, so I have to call it mobile Safari. All right, so the name was incorrect. Mobile Safari. Desktop Safari. All right, so
But you have the one that has a WebKit.
hold on. This one, that's the, yeah, so it's desktop, right?
Okay,
But you know,
and the desktop is Safari.
yes, this desktop is Safari, desktop Safari.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
But
they
the
did
name
like
is
an
not.
up,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I think they did like an update on how how you set the browser's name. So let's just copy it from here. So mobile Safari. Okay, so let me comment this out first and see. Control C. So if we run this now, Safari is not found. Okay, so the project name should be so
Or maybe we're supposed to change to iPhone 12. Then we're supposed to remove the browser name for WebKit.
which one? What I
Okay, you
you
have
mean this
commented on the browser. You have commented on it.
one?
No, no,
I'll
no,
comment
no.
that.
Then the iPhone 12, nko. You know you still have iPhone 11 there.
Yeah, it can be iPhone anything actually.
Oh, okay, okay,
It can be anything.
okay.
So hold on. Mobile not found. Okay, so I'm trying to get the correct way to write the name here. So okay. So let's remove mobile first. Not found. Available projects, Chromium, mobile Safari. So why are you now mobile Safari? Mobile Safari. Let me put it in quotes. Okay, let's see. Okay, so that's the first hurdle. Then it's saying that is it that this source demo does not run browser context or has been closed? Okay, so okay, so yeah, I think we need to set up the project to be mobile, like mobile. To cater for mobile, basically, like the test, right? So I would work on that later. But basically, if you want to, run on a certain device, you can do that using Playwright by adding this. You just need to like do a setup on your phone to be able to do that on your test, basically, to get you to do that. Because obviously this test is no longer like it's no longer a web browser test, because if it's web browser, we're going to be like doing this using the viewport to get the size of device that you want, right? But in this case, we are like more like doing a mobile test, right? Mobile device test, basically. So um so yeah, so that's why we are getting, I think that's why we are getting the error, but I'll have to look into it more to know why. So maybe by tomorrow I'll correct or let you know what I find, what my findings are. So the next thing is the SSL. I mentioned the SSL certificate thing. I don't know if you guys have heard about, has anybody heard about SSL certificates before? Have you? Anybody?
No.
Okay, so let's see. So this is a good example of SSL. No, sorry, let me add error. SSL certificate error. Okay, cool. So I know you must have seen something like this before. You must have seen something like this before on your browser, or maybe when you're trying to hit a
Yes.
particular.
Yes.
So yeah, so this happens as a result of when you don't have the SSL sign. So it's called self-signed self-signed uh self-signed something certificates. Yeah. Yeah. So let me see if there's a way where I can get the full the full the full this thing. SSL certificate. Um, it's basically a kind of security stuff, right? So, so with Playwright, you can actually handle things like this. So in some cases, some websites will, if you don't have, if you're it's like there's a browser setup or something that blocks something like this, or maybe the website doesn't have this certificates this thing, it can throw this error, and you might need to like click on um maybe go to advanced or click on accept or click on something basically for you to be able to proceed to where you need to get to, right? So with Playwright, you can actually be able to handle this particular error, navigate it basically. So how do you do that? So
I'm seeing
yeah,
I'm seeing secure sockets layer. Is it the same thing?
secure
Sockets layer.
SSL certificates. Full meaning, even full form. Science. Hold on. Let me just confirm. Secure socket layer. Okay. It's a security protocol. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. Um, SSL. Okay. I think the one I'm talking about is a bit different. There's also the self-signed something something. Okay. But I think they are all maybe talking about the same thing, basically. But yeah, it's the same, it's still the same one.
Okay.
Secure socket layer certificates. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So you might encounter this kind of issue, like especially when I think some projects, I don't know if it's is on project level, or some people have this certificate, because I know that while I was working on my project, I've had to deal with this error several times. Yeah. When I tried to run my Playwright test, initially, before I even found out that Playwright can actually has a way for you to like handle that in your what's it called, in your config file, right? So you how do you now handle it basically? So basically you can actually go to um your come into your browser settings here, and then call say set, there's something called ignore HTTPS error. Set that to set it to true. Yeah. And with that, you can basically bypass that particular issue. just with this one line of setup in your Playwright config file, right? Another issue is like geolocation thing. So you might have a website that when you visit it, it will be, I don't know if you've seen it, you pop up something and be like Google, they want to confirm your location, and we confirm your location, something. So I don't know if anybody has experienced that before, when you open a website and then you see something like set location. I don't know, forgotten the exact way they should write it, sha, but it just pops up somewhere, maybe somewhere up here or somewhere up by the right here. I don't know if you've experienced it before. Anybody? Let me see if you can see any image that will show location. How do I get it now? Nobody is getting any idea of what I'm saying. Geolocation.
I think Karen responded. She said yes.
Sorry.
Karen responded. She said yes.
Okay, cool. So yeah. On web on website. Okay, let's see. So just for the benefit of those who have not seen that before. Let me see if I can see it. Okay, something. Yeah, so something like this. Let's see. Yeah, so it's something like this. You just see a pop-up. Sometimes it's not as big as this. You say you see something like Google wants to know your location. Exactly. Yeah, Google wants to know your location. So something like this can come up on this side or on the other side of the website. So with Playwright, you can actually handle something like this on in your
Okay.
config file. Sorry?
Okay. Is that pop-up is same as the alert? Like this website, this one that we are always using on, it's always bringing a alert like that. So
Source demo.
yes, source demo.
Okay. What does he even ask for? Let's see.
Just brings an
Anyway, let me
input.
just put, so you can put that by calling, there's this also other one called permissions, yeah? Geolocations permission. So you call the permission and then you put in geolocation, yeah? And that's it. Okay. So with this, you can basically just automatically allow this to do this, like allow Playwright to automatically allow this particular thing for you. So let me see the source demo that I was talking about. Source demo application. When you log in, I think I remember what he's saying, but I don't know if it's a location thing. Change. Okay, no, this is password. The password that you just used was found in a data breach. Google Password Manager. Commence changing it now. Okay, this is basically a password thing, not the geolocation thing. Okay, so yeah, so these are some of the ways to handle some of the things that you might face in the course of writing your test automation, and how you can basically handle some of them. We've talked about the traces, the videos. So now the another very important thing is parallel test execution. So there are two things for you to note in mind when we talk about Playwright execution of test in Playwright. So first, Playwright runs tests, different test files in parallel. So for instance, if I'm running these two test files, Playwright will run them in parallel. So it means Playwright will not wait for this one to finish before it picks this one. It will run both of them in parallel. So it will open, one worker will be running this one, another worker will be running this test. Do you understand? So it will basically run the two tests in parallel because they are on different files. But Playwright runs tests, different tests in the same test file. It runs them sequentially by default, right? So by default, Playwright runs test files in parallel, and then runs individual tests inside the test file sequentially. Does that make sense? So if I'm running this test file only, it will run this test one after the other. To run this one first before it then goes to run the other one. Yeah. Then if I am running this, if I'm running the two tests together, so by saying if I just do npx playwright test, it will run the two tests. So it will run them in parallel, to not run them sequentially, right? Because they are on different files. They are in different files. So even if I have 10 files here, it's going to run it in parallel. But I think Playwright has default of 5 workers to run, but you can basically set it the way you want, right? So for instance, if you want to reduce the number of workers that you want to use to run a certain test, or you want to increase it, you can also go to your config file and set the number of worker you want your test to run, right? So by default, I mean, you can already see that when we run our test. So if I say playwright config, let me remove this now. If I run playwright test, yeah, it's running no. Sorry, let's see, sorry. Let's do, I don't want this viewport again. Desktop. Hold on, let me see something. So if I say I beg, who knows all this phone that is here? Galaxy Note 3, for instance. Interesting. I just want to do an experiment. Okay. So, all right. So, yes, I want to comment this out. Okay, let me change this to say Safari mobile or desktop. What did Playwright call it again? WebKit. Okay, let's close it. Just yeah, so yeah, WebKit. And then the device is desktop Safari. Okay. What's going on? Safari. Login with valid credential, contact closed. So I'll have to debug this error. This is looking like it's not even the mobile thing itself. So I'll look into it and know what's going on. But that's even if it's even this guy. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Okay, okay. All right. So let's just comment that out. Anyway, I think okay, yeah. So you can see that how many tests did we have now? So we basically has like 4 tests running 2 workers. Yeah. Let me run the test again now that I commented out the other browser. Okay. So we have 1 worker running. Okay, sorry. We are running 1 test because this, sorry, I was running 1 file. Don't mind me. So I've removed that. Yeah, so if I run this again, let's see. Okay, awesome. So now you can see that in play. So we have like 3 tests that are currently running using 2 workers. And the reason why we have these 2 workers is because we have 2 files, 2 test files that are actually that have been triggered. And inside of these 2 files, we have a total of 3 tests because the first file has 2 tests and the second file has 1 test. So basically, the first worker will pick the first file and then start running the test inside of the first file sequentially. You can see that we got like 2 reports. See, the first one and the second one, right? So the first worker will pick the first file and start running the test inside of that file sequentially. And then the second worker will pick the second file and start running it sequentially, right? So for instance, if we have like more than, if we had enough time now, I would have said, let me add more tests so that you can see how how it plays, but you can actually try it out on your own. And yeah, so this is by default. This is Playwright doing its thing by default, right? And it actually helps to make Playwright test. It's one of the things that makes Playwright test faster, runs faster, right? And you don't need any extra work to enable you achieve this in Playwright. You can see that it is done by default, unlike Selenium, where you have to like start doing some extra work for you to actually be able to run your test in parallel or this thing. So that's that. Then but there's a way you can actually decide to set it up and like, okay, I want my test to run. Maybe if you have multiple files, like maybe you have 20 files, 50 files, 100 test files. I don't know if you can have 100 test files, sure. But yeah, maybe you have like 10, 20, 25, 30, depending on the how large your project is, right? So you can say, okay, I want to have like maybe 10 workers or 8 workers, right? That will run these files, right? And then what you can do is come to your config file, come into your config file here and put maybe worker, yeah, workers. And then you set it up. So if you want all the tests to use 1 worker, you can set it to 1. If you want it to use 2, you set it to 2, 3, 5. No, any number of workers you want it to use, you set it basically. So this is how you set it. And when you run it, it uses 5 workers or when there's tests to run, right? So let me just do a practice, a what they call it, an experiment. The experiment is I don't have up to 5 test files, but I want to use 5 work. I've set up 5 workers. So let me see let me see what will happen. Okay. So it didn't same. We have just 2 files, so it will just take 2 workers basically. Okay, so that's that. So just in case you have more, although I think by default Playwright will use 5. Let me see. Let's just confirm from Playwright documentation. Workers should be in the it should be in Playwright. No, let me just type workers. Playwright worker. Okay. Worker confidence web events limited and that's what I'm saying. No, that's not what I'm saying. Um, okay, let me not waste time here. Let's config. You can also pass it in the command line. Okay. Oh, so Playwright now have so you can see it can now also accept percentage. Okay, we'll use 20% of your CPU space, blah blah blah. So you can see it now has more functionality, like they've updated it to something else to accept percentage. Maybe if you know your percentage of the available CPU that you have space, you can say use a certain percentage of it and then use it to run your test. So that one is now also available according to this documentation. I'm trying to see. Anyways, basically you can set it up to run how many number of workers that you want, depending on how large your test is, right? So yeah, but by default, Playwright will run different files in parallels, meaning it will use different workers for different test files, basically, right? And that enables it to run your tests faster. So that's that. Then the next thing is then aside from running your test in parallel by default and sequentially, you can actually have you can actually decide to for instance, alter the way your tests run in a in the what's it called now? In a test file, right? So for instance, if I copy this test, so for instance, let's say I take this test. Hold on. Let me do dot configure. Okay. So if you add .configure to your describe block, you can actually set properties like mode, yeah, and yes, the mode, which is the default mode or parallel or serial, exactly. So now, what I wanted to show you is how you can actually force your test to run in parallel, right? Or in serial mode. So for instance, we know that file tests in a file runs sequentially. But what if I want it to run in parallel, right? It means that you can then come and say, if for instance, you do not have a describe block in here already, you can just do something like test.describe.configure, configure, yeah. And then inside of your configure, you just put this object here, right? And then it runs your test in this thing. But I already have my, so let me cut this out. I already have a test.describe block in here. So I just need to basically add the configuration. So let's see. Let me see. Yeah, inside of here, inside of the existing describe block. Yeah, and then add the configuration here. So let's see if we can run only this test file and see the results. So if I run dot only, can I use dot only here now? Is it possible? No, I already used configure. Okay, so let me comment this out. Yeah, and then run this test and see. Or let me just, what am I even doing? You can also run a single file. Yeah, you can run a single file. So what I can do is say run playwright test and then put the name of the file. So source demo login dot spec dot js. Yeah. Source demo login dot spec dot js. npx run npx dot spec dot js. Okay. Sorry, I might have to add test. Make sure the arguments are regular expressions matching test files. Hold on, let me copy the part of this file. Control C. Okay. Alright, what's the problem? Escape to escape symbols like this or this and put the arguments. What arguments are we putting? That was correct. So why is what's the problem? What's the problem? You may need to escape symbols like this or this and close the arguments. Where are the symbols now? I don't get. Login. Okay. Because the name of the hyphen in the file. Okay. Let's see. Okay. I think maybe that's why. Let me just confirm that that's the problem. Let's run a different file, say products, prospect.js. Okay. Okay, so the problem is dash dash in the file name. So how do they use to escape that thing again? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not very good with all this escaping of this symbol thing. Let me just run the test normal. Meanwhile, later we'll get to a part where we can bytecode that as well. So I'll just run npx. Yeah, let's run this. Oh, npx playwright test. Filter is not found. Why? 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 No, sorry. Why? No test found. Okay. So I'm going to do this and take this out for now. So let me see what happens. Interesting. Oh. Ah, okay. Interesting. All right, so yeah, so I just realized that because obviously I haven't used this inside of a file before like this. That's the parallel this. So what it means is that you can't use it the way it was before. You have to use it like this alone, right? So, and using that, we are able to actually make this test file to run this test in parallel. And you can see that it was actually quite faster because one worker will pick this test, another worker will pick the other test, right? So what I just want to confirm now is, let me take this, Control Z. I'm going to take this out. Okay, so I'll put this here and see what happens. I'm not calling you Siri, I don't know what you're saying. Okay, we're learning. Okay, so you can't really use this in a file where you already have a describe block. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I was talking what we didn't see. Needed to leave that. So let's see. Okay, okay. Okay, so all right, so I believe you guys can see what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm just trying to confirm the usage of this with other describe block because this is a describe and then configure something. And then I already have like a describe here. So I wanted to see if this describe here is going to obstruct the other describe, but obviously it is not obstructing it. So if you want to do this kind of setup, then you can still do it even when you have a describe block in here. So this describe is obviously different from this one. Yeah, and then you can't really have this inside of here, like inside of this same describe, because I think this configure will make this no longer a test. It will not see this test anymore. So yeah, so with this line of code, you can basically force your test to run in parallel. Yeah, you can force it to run in parallel, and you can also use something called, you can also force your test to run in serial mode. For example, in a situation whereby you want a certain test to, maybe if you have like an interdependent test, right? A test that is dependent on the other test. So you can maybe this second test is dependent on this test, then and it is running in parallel, you can basically use the serial on to force it to run serially, like sequentially, for this one to run first before this one would run, right? So that's another feature of Playwright that you can actually try out, like I'm just doing now. I haven't really used that. What I've used is the tags and the JSON script, which I'm going to be talking about now. So another good thing about Playwright is that you can use what we call tags to control your test, to control how your tests run, right? And how do you do that? Or how do you make that put that into play? So what you can do is just like you have this test, right? You can say, for instance, maybe you have web UI test, you have API test, you have or maybe you have, let's say you have visual tests, you have smoke tests, you have regression tests or anything. You can basically use tags to separate these tests, right? And then they can run like depending on the tags that you have created. So for instance, I can have just like I have this valid login test. You can say, okay, let me uncomment this. Yeah. And so right here I can have a tag. So when this is the way it's written. So this tag you can actually use anything. It's just like variables. You can use any name at all, right? So for instance, let's say Mary. Let me put Mary. But when you're creating tags, basically use something that makes sense, yeah? So you can say maybe web, sorry, maybe web test, yeah, or maybe UI test, yeah, UI test. So if I come and say, if I come and do npm, so if I want to run this test now, so let's say for instance I want to run all the tests that have this tag, right? Let me say for instance this also has this tag, yeah, it has this tag, say we are testing, then it has this tag, yeah. So, and you remember that this one now does not have this tag. So see what will happen when I run the test. So if I do this, right? Okay, you want it to run in headed. Then what you do is you add this dash dash grep, something called grep in Playwright, and then you add the tag that you have used. So what it means is that go to all the tests in this file and look for all the tests that have this tag. Those are the ones I want you to run, right? So when I run this test, this one would run, this one here will run, and then this one will not run. Then this other test here would also run because they have this same tag. You can see two tests using two worker, right? They are using two workers because obviously this test is on a different file and the other one is in a different file. Right, so it's basically running two test files. Okay, so this is one way to actually also group your tests to run at the way you want it, basically, right? So you can see, and it's basically showing us the tags. UI test, UI test. That's the tag that we're using to run it, right? So this is actually really helpful. If you're running your test in maybe in CI/CD pipeline, you can basically structure your tests to by using tags to ensure that a certain number of tests runs under a particular worker, or a certain number of test runs under a, depending basically on how you want your test to behave, right? And you can actually use this also to set some tests on the to set up your scripts on your Playwright, on your JSON config file, right? So this is another very useful feature of Playwright. So instead of me saying dot only or this, if I take this out from here now, it's going to run only the one test, because only one test has this. Yeah, so I use this a lot to maybe when I have a lot of we already have like tags that we use to run tests, but what I do is if I want to just run a single test, I just take out the tag that is there, change it to my name, say Mary. That's if I'm debugging a certain test. Maybe a particular test is failing, I want to debug and see what's happening. Okay, I'll just change the tag to a different tag entirely. So when I run npx playwright test, right, and add the tag here, say Mary, yeah, it would only run that single test for me. You see, it's running one test, because I said run the one that has the tag Mary. Yeah. So yeah. But I mean, if you do something like this in your company and you have your test on CI/CD already, if you're pushing, please revert it to the tag that you are using, right? So that you don't push this there for them. So you push are supposed to, if you want to like use tags, you have to use a tag that would make sense to what you're doing, right? I just use things like this to debug when I'm working on or all of that. So that's another one. So the last thing we're going to talk about before we close for today is the using okay, so what's happening? A lot of people have left the call. Is it the network or something?
No, it's not the network. When some persons have to go and break. You have Muslims amongst us, and they have to go and take their break at 7 o'clock. They have to say
Oh,
their prayers and go and break.
oh,
Okay.
So
oh,
that's the reason why.
yeah, sorry about that
But
though.
we are still with you anyway.
Okay. Um, all right. So I hope what I'm saying is making sense, yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
You
Yes,
understand?
yes,
Sorry?
yeah,
yes, please.
Okay. All right. So let's proceed. I think this is the last thing we have for today. So most of these things I say, you can basically try it out on your own, and then see how it plays out. It's really some of the things that makes Playwright a beautiful tool to use for test automation. So the next thing is the setting of your scripts, your scripts, right, in your JSON file to make things easier for you, right? So you don't have to maybe type these commands offhand all the time, right? So in your package.json file, you remember that package.json actually you're not the one that created this file. It comes in when you install your Playwright, when you initialize Playwright in your project, or when we're doing JavaScript, when you initialize, wait first, did we even get package.json in this thing? Where's the JavaScript on? Yeah, we did. So yeah, when you install a certain thing, no, intro structure, debugger handle, okay. No. Yeah, basically you get node modules and this thing when you install Playwright. Yeah. or when you install something basically in your Node.js project, any project that is Node.js based, you will get your package.json, you will get your, what's it called? You will get the node modules. Yeah, this file will automatically be imported into your file, right? So, and the package.json basically houses your dev dependencies, which are the frameworks, whatever it is that you're using. Basically, you can see that we have Playwright here, Playwright test here. Yeah. And then it tells you the version of the app that you're using and the version of whatever it is that you install that you're using. And then you have things like description, license, author, keywords, and all of that. Okay, so the one that is very important to us, and then the name of your project, you see that it has this. I'm not the one that put it here. It basically picks the name from whatever name I give to my folder. It picks the name and put it here. You can change it depending on you, and then the version. So for those that for instance, it gives version 1. Obviously, this is version 1 of our test project because this is the first version that we have. If, for instance, we have another, maybe we do like an update or something, and then it might, change to another version or whatever. So that's how like versioning in terms of like, I mean, you know that we use applications every day, and every day when they make new changes, they're telling you that it is either version 1.0 point something or version, all these 0.0, 0.1, 0.0, they all mean something. I think when you have points, if this 0 changes to, let's even use these actual ones, these actual ones here. So this third point here, this third decimal place here, this one here, the one that like this 10 for this node, types node, this 10, I think means there's a minor change in the application or in the framework or in the whatever it is, basically. If there's a minor change, like maybe, in fact, something that has not in any way impacted the functionality of the application. So maybe things like, you know what? Let me not say what I can't remember fully again. Let me just type, say, versioning. Maybe hope that's what they're calling it. To versioning. Let me see. Software versioning, best practice. What are software versioning? You just want to know what to expect when it comes to. So let's see. I just wanted to know the meaning of those 3 dots. So the first one I know is like a major change, like a major update. Then no, I think this is not what I'm looking for.
It's up there. You have passed it.
I passed it, Abby. Where?
Where you have major, minor, and
Okay,
on
yeah,
that
okay.
particular one.
That.
Yeah, major, minor. So just scroll up. Scroll up. Scroll up. Scroll up.
Yeah. Okay. Semantic. Oh, awesome. Awesome. So yeah, this is it.
Here,
So what is
yes.
semantic?
Major
So
version changes are related to incompatible API changes.
exactly. So these
Minor.
things that you're seeing is major, minor, and patch, right? So these 3 things here. So this is when they have a major change. This is where they have a minor change, and then this is when they have like a patch, right? And this major, what I wanted to actually get is the things that can fall under major, minor, and patch. So major version changes are related to incompatible API changes. Okay. Minor version changes are related to adding new functionality in a backward compatible manner. And then the patch versions are related to bug fixes, which are also backward compatible. Okay. So this is what I wanted to basically let you know. I don't know if you've heard about it before, but I just thought to let you know. Yeah, so that is basically it here. In case maybe you're building an app or whatever, and then you're doing your changes. So basically, this version here is for our own project. This is our test automation project. That's why we have it here. So, but I mean, the one that we're very much configure run your tests, right? Run your tests the way you want to run it or the way you want to configure it. So right in here, we can basically add scripts here, right? All right, so we can add scripts here. And for instance, say I have this tag that I've added here. So sorry, let me just change this back to UI test, right? So I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this and say, and then go to my package.json file. So I can add a script here, say, I can say test UI or maybe web, yeah. And then I will have my npx playwright tests. And then you can say, and then put your tag, right? So this tag here, right? So if I have this set up, it means that anytime I call, if I want to run the tests that have these tags, right? If I want to run tests that have these tags, I can just come here and say npm, I can just say npm run tests web. And then if I run this test, it's basically run all the tests that have that at UI. So let's see, no test found. Let's see. Why? What did I do? npm run, yeah, test web. Make sure that arguments are regular. What? Okay. Still this test file thing. This oh, sorry. I didn't add the grep parts. Yeah. Yeah, dash grep. Yeah. So let's see. Okay. Yeah. I missed that. So you see, you can just use this. So when you add a script, so you can basically add a very long something, right? And you don't want to be typing very long something. Maybe you can also put dash headed, yeah. And there's how large your project can be. You can have different config files, right? Different config files, like just like we have this config file here. You can have different config files that you want to run for different tests, right? So when you have such, you can basically configure it in your package.json and say, okay, for this particular test, please run this config file. How do you do that? All you just need to do is inside anything that you want to add, just be adding inside this particular test. All you just need to do is say, okay, for a particular config file, I want to run, you can say, for a certain config file, you can say dash config, right? And then you say playwright. For instance, maybe the name of that config that you want to run is playwright.config dot This is dot, not dot dot. So you can say dot JS, or this currently, that's what we have here. But let's say you have another config file that says maybe Playwright service, or Playwright service doesn't use hyphen. So you can say maybe Playwright global. Maybe you can have a global config, because you can have a config file that runs your test locally, right? You can decide to have a local global, a local config file. You can also decide to have global config file. So depending on what you want at a particular time. So basically whatever it is that you want, you can just come to your test script and set it and say, okay, when I am running this particular script, please run the global config file for me. When I'm running you can, and the scripts, you can set multiple, you can have tens of scripts here that you run, depending on how large your project is. So you can add another script and say maybe, let's say maybe you have API test. So you can say test API, yeah, and then you put your commands that will basically run your API test, right? So you can say npx playwright test. Say maybe if you have a particular file of, so maybe let's say for instance, let me even take this file. So let me copy the relative path and put it here. Command V. Yeah. So, and then I say dash dash, maybe headed, blah blah blah, whatever it is. So now what this script will do is that this script, let me change this, not an API test. So let's say UI. So this particular script, if I run it, it will only run this file for me, this test file that I put here, right? So if I run this script, say test run npm run this test UI, it will only run this file for me, one file. And that one file, remember, has two tests inside of it. So now you can see that it is running these two tests inside here. And it is disregarding this one, right? Because I didn't give the instruction to ignore this. I just said run this file for me. That's basically what this script here is doing, is running the individual file, because that's what I provided here, right? Inside of this script here. So it's just the same thing as copying this particular command, right? Copying it and pasting it here. But for some reason, sorry, because of this dash dash that is here, this my terminal is now seeing it as a, if I paste this here and run it, sorry. Okay, let's just delete it. If I paste ordinarily, normally on a normal, it should run the file, right? But okay, it's running. Oh. So what happened to it before? What happened to it before? Why was it not running before? Okay, I think I used npm here instead of npx. Was that what happened? I don't know again. No. All right, so it ran, yeah. So
So it's NPX used now.
I don't even remember.
So it's NPX used.
Why did he fail to run before? Why was he throwing that error? Why was he throwing that error? I don't know. I think this thing, the head used to touch sometimes. Okay,
Maybe because
so,
you didn't add edit to it.
but that's not the reason now. It shouldn't, if I remove headed, it should still run. Headed is just for it to run on the, I want to see it. If I remove headed, it will run on the, should run, should still run. The headed is not like a compulsory, is what I want. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. It's not a compulsory something. Let me even remove it from here so that you don't think it's not compulsory. It's not
Okay.
compulsory. Just know that the reason why it's just like you saying, okay, well, yeah, run this test for me in UI mode. Say UI mode. Do you understand? I add UI here. So it's basically your choice if you want, right? I don't know if you understand. So for instance, if you're pushing this to CIC pipeline, you don't need the dash headed again, right? You take it out because you don't want to be running pipeline and running UI mode. Do you understand? So you take it out. But
Okay.
because you can basically add headed or UI because maybe you want to see what is going on as the test is running. So that if it fails somewhere, you want to see where it is failing or why it is failing. I don't know if that makes sense. UI, headed, headless. So basically it by default it runs headless, right? And that way the test runs faster actually, right? Without so many obstructions. Do you understand? But now maybe when you want to see what is going on, how the test is actually playing, how it is doing, that's when you now add maybe dash headed. I want to see it run. I want to see how it is running on the browser. Do you understand? And then that's when it now opens up the browser for you and then shows you the things that are happening. So yeah, so this is how you basically create your scripts in your package.json file and then use it to configure your test. If you have 1,000 test files here, you can basically use tags, add tags to them, say, I want to UI test, maybe add it to the different tests you have. If you're using this tag, you can basically add this tag here, add it to, if you have like maybe 10 tests in this file, you can just add it to them so they know that, okay, you know that these test files, or you can even add it to multiple files depending on, yes, you can, maybe you have Google Analytics test file, like Google Analytics events, so GA events, or maybe you have UI verification tests, like maybe screenshots and all of that. You have tests that are verifying the UI, yes, the UI. You can add that. You have tests that are verifying functionalities, or you have component tests. You have component test. So you can basically add a tag like maybe component and then come to your package or JSON and say something like create another one, say maybe test component. Yeah, this test is not a must though. It's anything that you like. Do you understand? This thing that I'm putting here, anything that you like, but it should just make sense to what you're writing. So you can now say npx playwright, it will run the component test, and maybe you have created a tag, right, for the test. So you can now say at component, yeah, and then you take this tag and then add it to all the component tests that you have, right? So you know that when you want to run component tests, you just come and use this script here and run component tests. If you want to run UI tests, you just come and use the script and run all the UI tests. Irrespective of files where they are, Playwright will basically, sorry, please don't forget to add this dot, a dash grep, please. I don't know why I keep forgetting that, dash grep, yeah. Once you have this tag here, right? If not, it won't run. It will fail. I think you also observed it before. It's not even fail to tell you that there's no test because it's not seeing any tests like that. So you have to put this grep. Very important. So yeah, I think that's all for now. Any questions?
Of the solar formulation to it's the grade that you
Okay, so we
bought.
only have two dependencies for Playwright, right?
Like
From what you have here, at playwright/test and types/node. That's the only dependencies you have. Unlike Selenium, that you have so many dependencies that you need to upload them or get their version and put before you can start running.
so the thing is it's not like so depending on, you know, that these dependencies are depending on what you need, your project need. Do you understand? As your project grows and you need things, it will keep growing. Yes, so that reminds me, there's something else I forgot that I was supposed to say. Um, Give me a minute. So I was supposed to show you reporting, right? I know I've showed you, you can see things like Ella.
Ella is not part of the classroom.
Sorry, don't mind, don't mind this girl. So sorry, I was supposed to show you guys reporter, another form of reporting in for playwrights, yeah. So with that, I would also answer this your question. Abim Bola, am I mentioning your name correctly? So
Yes, correct.
yeah. So yes, we saw HTML report, yeah, where we basically saw it's opening on localhost and all of that, and then you see all your tests, the ones that are passed, the one that failed, the flaky one. So if you have flaky test, it will show here that this is a flaky test. Even if you pass, it will not move it to pass, just passed. It will be showing it as a flaky test. Do you understand? Because it had to maybe rerun again before it passed. So it will count it as a flaky test. So it will put it here. If they are skipped tests, it will show you here. For now, they are all 0 because our error says no test found. Yeah. So this is basically HTML report. Then there is also reports like some people use Alio reporting, right? So how do you use Alio reporting in Playwright? So Playwright does not come with Alio reporting by default. Yeah. The reports, other types of reporting that Playwright has is line reporting. I think it has line. Aside from HTML, it has line reporting. Let me just search here. Reporters. Reporters, yeah. Yeah, built-in reporters. Let's see. So yeah, it has lists, yeah, which basically is like text in text files. So here is an example of exactly. So this is it. This is an example. This is what it looks like. Yeah. So if you're a reporter, if you set it to list, it will report this way. But you know that this kind of reporting doesn't give you really so much information that you need. Yeah. So sorry. Right. So this is how it will show basically if you're using list, right? And then you have the HTML which we're using. Then you have the dot format. These are the ones that Playwright actually provides, right? And this is how the dot format looks. Yeah. Then let's see if there are other ones. We have HTML which we're already using. We're already using that. Okay, there's blob. Blob. Don't know, not used this one before. Blob. Okay. I don't know what that one looks like now. So basically, these are different reporters that you have in Playwright by default, right? And then you can basically go to your playwright.json, the .config file and set the report so you can see, say, reporter HTML or change it to line. You change it to line, it means that when we run this test now, we're going to be seeing our report in line format, no longer in HTML format. Then, oh yeah, now, here's our report now. Right, no. No, let me delete this file first. Hold on, let me see if there are any additional settings they did for the line. Line here, reporter line. Nothing else. Supposed to show like this, running these tests. No, this is dot reporter. So this is line. Yeah. Okay, no, this is list. Sorry, where is line? Okay. This is list. This is line. Render HTML. What is the reporting thing? The reporter, this thing, the one that I use, like I like using is the HTML. And then if you use, so let's say dots, let's see, no, let's see lists. Let's see what it looks like. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so this is list. You can see that. Yeah, you can see the list. So I don't know if this is, no, this is not it. So the line, I do not really see anything that it's reported. Okay, not top the one. All right, so so the lists, this is it. This is the list, and then we have seen HTML in play before. Then there's also, you can basically say, okay, I want to use Alio reports to get reports on my test reports, right? For example. And Alio for Playwright is like a third party. So you have to install it. Do you understand? You have to get it, right? So how do you do that? You have to first import Alio reporter. So say npm. So we have to install we install it as a dev dependency. So say at Playwright Playwright test, then Alio, you are installing Alio for Playwright. Yeah. So you type this and then hit enter. The reason why I'm also going to use this to answer your question, Abimbola. So you see that when this installs, it will join this list. When you finish installing, it will join this list here, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah. So as your project grows and you keep installing things depending on what you need, right? Your dev dependencies will keep growing. You can see that Alio Prayers, this thing is here now. Yeah. So if, for instance, there's another tool, let's say, for instance, somebody asked about, I think, oh God, I didn't get the chance to even. So somebody asked about using Playwright to do verify something like when you sign up,
OTP.
OTP, something like that.
OTP,
Yeah.
yeah.
So now there is maybe tomorrow, if we get the chance, if there's time, I'll try to try to practicalize that. Meanwhile, I've forgotten the website that she shared that time. If anybody still has it, or if she's here, are you the one that even has the question?
He's on the platform. No, it's Gambo, but he's on the platform. I shared it on the platform.
The link. Okay, please
Yeah,
share
the
it
link.
I send it to
Okay.
my
Okay, I will.
yeah. So there's there's this AP something that Playwright you can actually install to use this thing Zeal mail store or something. So when you install that, it keeps growing. In fact, anything, maybe a frame or a anything basically that you will need more, like any additional software that you have to maybe install as a result of your project need, right? Then as you install it, your dev dependencies will keep increasing, because once you install anything, it will tell you, it will add it here automatically, right? So your package or JSON, aside from your script, it basically keeps records of all the dependencies that you've used in this particular project, right? And that is why if you push this project to GitHub and somebody clones it, right, in their own repository. So for instance, if you join a company and then you clone their repository, if you run npm install, it will basically, it's this package.json that will allow it install you may not know the dependencies that have been used in that project to enable it run. So in some cases, if you don't even install it, the project will not run. Do you understand? Just like this test. If somebody clones this test now in their laptop and they don't do npm install, they will not get this. They will have the test. They will have the test, right? Nobody else is in this house. So they will have the.
We are here. We are here.
We can hear you.
We can hear you, Abeg.
No, I'm not talking to you. Don't mind me. Sorry. Yeah, so if somebody clones this repository, for example, in their laptop, they will have the test. They will have all the tests, right? But if they try to run this test, it will not run. The reason is because they don't have these dependencies. So they have to, instead of say, okay, instead of them to now start installing these dependencies one after the other, with the help of package.json, because we already have this package.json, right? The person just need to type npm install and run it. Once you run npm install, even if you have 1,000 dependencies inside of this for this project, it will automatically install all of them for that person. Do you understand? It will just install the packages for them, and then these node modules and these things, they all work hand in hand, basically. All right, so let's leave that part. That's not the lecture for today. All right, so yeah, so we've installed Alio report. Now, how do we use Alio report to get our reports for our test, our Playwright test reports? Yeah. So after installing it, right, what you can now do, then you will now run your test, right? So, but when I'm running this test this time around, I'm going to add -- reporter. Yeah. If I don't add this reporter, it's going to do what? It's going to take the default reporter, which is set in the config file. But this time I don't want it. So I'm going to add this. So I'm going to say -- reporter equal to line. Yeah. So this line is the Playwright, is one of the Playwright default reporter. Yeah. So this is going to be serving as an input for the Alio report. So this will take the Playwright report in the line format, yeah, and then give it to Alio report. So I'm going to now add comma Alio Playwright, yeah. So this will serve as an input to the Alio, and then Alio will take that input and then convert it to Alio report. Yeah. So let's run this test again. So it's running 2 tests. Watch what will happen here in this place. Okay, so we now have like Alio results here. A folder, Alio results. Yeah. Now, if you look at this, you will not even understand anything. Does not make sense. Yeah. So how do we now make it make sense? Right. So what we can now do is run Alio generate. Yeah. So generate Alio report from this file, from this folder. Yeah. So I'm going to add /Alio results. That's this folder here, right? And we will add -- clean. So meaning, please give us this report in a clean format, right? And then I will run. Alio not found. Why? Why? Did I not spell it well? Yeah, I spelled it correctly. So why? ZSH command not found. Okay, so let me use bash. Let's see. Sorry. Let's use bash. Not found too. Why? Why? Allele generates. Why is it not finding it? Okay, hold on. What is it saying not found? Same thing. Okay. Let's see, for example, let me see why it's not. Allele clean history. Anyone? Okay, let's see. Allele clean command. Let's go to the documentation. Let's see. Allele open here. That one is okay. We want to generate the open command. I want to know what's the problem with my command is. We should see. Okay, so we'll this course is taking longer than expected. Okay. Let me take this. Yeah, I'm trying to integrate earlier report generation utility with PyTest I have installed earlier on Linux. But try earlier again this. So what's the solution? Solution is just 3 steps. Anyway, I'm not dealing with Python here. Let's go back. Error this found earlier when integrating earlier indicates that the earlier command cannot be located in the current environment. This may happen if the earlier command line tool is not installed or not properly configured in the system. Why? This is what we used to install it. This doesn't install earlier itself. Please check out the other. That's not what I'm looking for. That's not my problem. Okay, so earlier generates, but unable to generate the report using the below command, getting the error. This. Okay. This is my problem. This is our problem. So what's the solution they gave this guy? Keshava. Install. Okay, how did you install Alio? It looks like the issue with the Alio installation to me. Okay, I've installed using this. Yes, which is what we used. So it says This doesn't install Alio itself. Please check this. So let's check that for the installation instruction. Right now, it says to do something like the following: install on Mac. Closing this, since this is not a Playwright issue. Okay. So Alio is different. Get started with Alio. This is what I hate. I don't like doing on a call like this because it will take so much time. So you know what, let me just see, but this shouldn't be. Install it as brew install Alio. Oh yeah, now do I have brew on my system? I think I do. Let me see. If I run brew install Alio, I think I've installed Alio before on my laptop. This as if this doesn't take so much time. Just seeing how often this is run with Homebrew. Auto updates type. Okay, so anyway, I think this is I don't know if that's the problem. I will have to like calm down to read this instruction here. But from the response they gave this guy, Playwright people gave this guy, the problem is not a Playwright problem. It looks like it's an Alio. I don't know now what the problem is. Why
It's an earlier
it's
problem
really
because we need to download
I
some
don't know.
other packages. I was so shocked when you could download it afresh here, and you're okay with it, and it's not going to give us any issue. But when you start having this, we might still have to go back because there are still some commands that we need to follow.
That we need to run. Yeah, but initially it was actually working like before now, because I know I've used it with Playwright before. Yeah, it works without any issue. So I don't know now.
Okay.
Yeah, it actually generated this file. Oh
Definitely.
yeah. So why is it now? Anyway, basically it's an earlier problem, so not Playwright. So but yeah, so this is the command that you basically run. So if we had sorted out the issue with Alio, then if you run this command, basically it will return a proper Alio. It will now return another folder here called Alio report, right? You will see a folder here. This is Alio results, but you will now see Alio report. Yeah, and then you can now run Alio open. Alio open that particular file, just like this. You now say Alio report, and then it will open your Alio report for you in a very beautiful Alio manner. So yeah, I think that's also what I wanted to show you guys again, but this particular issue did not allow us to reach the end. So any questions? I'm having a headache. Any questions, please?
Sorry. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I was actually thinking that this class will not take so long, since it's just basically configuration and yeah, it's I think it's all centered around configuring your tests. So I was thinking it won't take so long, but Jesus.
Okay, well done. Thank you so much. Please, I have a question concerning the way you use your um, CSS selector.
Sorry.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can hear you now. Yeah, go ahead.
Because I noticed that you do use dots and hash. What are other things that you use to fetch a selector, CSS selector for like a web element? Like because sometimes I will be trying to get a CSS selector using that extension, that Chrome extension that we have that you introduced to us. Like what other methods apart from the dot and hash? I don't know if you understand my question. What are other questions, other means
The
where we can
dot is using I didn't call you. The dot is using what's it called now? Using dot is using class, right? Classes. Ash is using IDs, yeah. Then you can actually use the tag name for the tag, right, of the element. You can use the tag name, you can use attributes. So all of them are under CSS selector. You can use attributes, you can use the tag name, you can use text, right? And I think we've tried most of these things. So this is a selector. This is a selector. And this is basically using this is a tag name. And I mean, you can also combine two things, maybe the tag name and the text, right? So in this case, we are combining the tag name and the text, right? Then there's also, this is class. Yeah, so this is data text, right? This is using the data, this is using an attribute actually, because this is the data test and the data test value is username. So this is another way you can do that. Yeah. Then let's see. Let's go back to and see. Yeah. So this is also another way. I've used the this is the tag name too, right? And then the name of the button. What else? Think we used a couple of other things in Playwright. I don't know if this is helpful to your question though. But yeah, you know that there are some, for instance, if you're using that tool, there are some ways that you can't really, like this thing that we did here. You can't do it in that place. It will not work because this is a Playwright syntax. Like this is a Playwright way of getting an element. Do you understand what I'm saying? So
yes,
if
yes,
it will not work. Like it won't find you anything, but Playwright will find you this element with this because this is what Playwright provides, right? So another way is expert, but expert is not usually used, like it's really not very this thing with in Playwright. It's mostly CSS selectors. So you can do things like using an attribute, maybe say I don't know what I'm trying to find now. Let me go back to this page. Use this and say properties. So let's say we want to get let's say we want to get this. Let's inspect this. See, this is okay. It has a class. The class is one you're familiar with that. It also this has a data test. So if we don't want to use the way we wrote the data test in Playwright here, data test, I think we use data test somewhere here. Yeah, this way, right? You can do something like open a brace and do data test. Yeah, equal to, and then you put the value, which is this, Control C, paste it here, cover that and close it. So with this, you should be able to find the elements. Yeah, so if
okay.
you can see that it is locating 6 elements that have this particular data test. Do you understand? So, and the reason is because, so in fact, you can see that it's highlighting all the 6 elements that are using this data test. So all these prices here are all the same this same. Now, what you can do in Playwright is say maybe dot end and then add the ends of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 to find the specific one. But this will not work here. Do you understand? Because this is not Playwright. Do you understand? But if it is in Playwright, I can take this. I know that it will find 6 elements, but I can take it and say page dot locator. Yeah, this is the locator. You put it, and then you can now say dot end of maybe 0 or 1 or 2 or whatever. Yeah. And then it will get you a specific one depending on what you put there. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
Yes. Okay. One more other thing. Okay, at that place when you are using end-10, there are sometimes that you do use brackets. There are sometimes you use this array symbol. I don't know which one.
No, the
Okay.
day I used it, it failed. If you remember, the day I used it, I had issues with the test. Until I realized, I discovered the issue. So you can't use that actually. I think that was somewhere. Yeah, the day I made it was a mistake actually. The day I mistakenly tried to use it somewhere in this I think it's somewhere in this test where exactly here. Yeah. I mistakenly on my mind skipped and I was thinking that I added it here, thinking that I was doing something like product list. Let's say product list I. Yeah, product list I will give me like one product list or something. That's if this is not a locator, but this is a locator and this is Playwright locator. It is a function. It's like a function, it's a method, right? And not, so if I call this here, this is identifying as a number, but this end is a method and I've not called that method. Except maybe we can do something like this. I don't even know if that works. Maybe something like this will work. Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. Can find out, right? So but this is the way you should actually use it. This is the method, right? This is the method. This is how it's written. Then you can now put your I in between it. So please don't get confused. That's not how to use when you're using the end. Please use it. Call it when you call it. Add your I inside. If you now want to put it inside that, call it make sure that I'm not even sure that one will work, but you can try it anyways. There's no harm in trying. You try, you learn by trying. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. Any other question? Any other question?
Thank you so much, Mary. I actually have a question.
Uh,
Hello?
okay, I can hear you now.
I think she can hear you, Faith. Faith, go ahead.
Okay, I actually have a question, though it's not related to today's lecture. It's more like a general question for automation, right? So my question is this: how do you handle a situation where how do you automate something like a registration form where the username, maybe email, is supposed to be unique? You know,
Okay.
or you have a username that's supposed to be unique, you know, and all that. Is this something we can actually automate, or we have to, you know, check for that manually?
Now you can automate it, right? So so there are some platforms. So what you do is, because the email is unique or should be unique, it means that you have to find a way to use generic emails, yeah, to automate your tests, right? And because you're doing automation, you are not always there to come and be changing the email. If not, it becomes a manual test, right? So what you can do is find a way to get random emails. Do you understand? Find a way to
Yes.
get random emails. And I think there are some platforms that would help you with that. Let me see. Random email generator. So random email generator. So there are a lot of random email generators, yeah, and they basically generate random emails for you. So you can use them. Then there's this temp mail, there's email generator, there's random email generator. So you can use them. Then another thing you can also do is maybe write a code that would write a simple code or a simple function that would generate random emails for you, right? So you can say, or even your username, say depending. So you can just basically, because you're doing sign up, maybe before the sign up, or maybe in your helper function, you can just create a small function, use like maybe maths.random, tell it to, so for instance, say, let's say for instance, I want to randomly generate maybe a name or a username for this test. Let's say for this test, yeah. Basically, I think I've answered your question, Sha. Any other thing is me trying to like do practical something.
Okay. Why I asked the question, I wanted to ask this question when we're going to do that OTP thing, because the email, right, is supposed to get an OTP and it's supposed to be a unique email. So I wanted to, but I just let me ask it today.
Okay, it's good you
Yeah.
asked anyways. That means we'll probably try to practicalize that tomorrow if we have enough time.
Okay, thank you.
So first of all, getting the OTP, and then it has to be a random email. So yeah, it means that we'll have to, because this one that I wanted to show you now will be very useful for maybe random username, random this thing, right? Because you may not, because it will just be generating things, random things, yeah, and you might not be able to receive because it does not exist. So, but in your own case, you would need things that exist, right? You need an email that actually exists, right? So you would have to use like a tool, like like maybe an assistant from what's it called? An assistant from of a framework or something to help you, like, and a random image generator basically, to use that for the test. So, but let's see more.
All right,
Okay,
thank you.
you're welcome. Any other questions? All right, I think that's all. We don't really spend time today. Please, can you stop recording? Thank you. All right.